In the kingdom of Elindor, where stars fell to earth like snowflakes in spring, a girl named Serenya lived hidden among cinders and silence. She had once been the daughter of a well-known star chronicler, a man who mapped the heavens and spoke to kings. But after her father's sudden passing, her life dimmed like a candle left in the wind. Her stepmother, Lady Varus, moved quickly into control, taking the estate, silencing the laughter in the halls, and turning Serenya into a servant in her own home. Her stepsisters, Lilian and Beryl, lived in silks and ribbons, while Serenya wore the same soot-gray dress day after day. Her days began before sunrise and ended long after moonrise, filled with cleaning, sewing, cooking, and enduring cruel words whispered behind velvet fans. But she never lost her kindness. In the quietest moments, Serenya would sneak to the rooftop above the old chimney and gaze up at the stars. Some were sharp and cold like broken glass, others soft and pulsing with golden warmth. She believed they were listening. She believed they remembered her. And so she whispered stories to them. Of who she might have been, had she been free. Of a girl who loved music and dancing. Of a girl who still dreamed, even if no one else dared to. One night, as she sat with her knees pulled to her chest, the wind grew still. The air shimmered. A single star, brighter than any she'd seen before, slipped down the sky in a silver arc and vanished behind the northern trees. Something stirred in her chest. "Did you see that?" she whispered to the chimney cat beside her. The cat blinked once, slowly, as if it had. In a grand palace carved from moonstone and mirrored glass, Prince Elion walked alone beneath the vaulted stars of the royal hall. The court watched him with quiet concern. For months now, the prince had refused all festivals, banquets, and betrothals. He had not danced since the day his mother, Queen Iselda, passed away, a queen known across kingdoms not for her crown, but for her gift, the power to make flowers bloom with song. Prince Elion had inherited her love for music. As a child, he played the sky harp beside her, laughing while petals swirled in the air. But since her voice had faded, so had his will to sing, to laugh, and most of all, to dance. Now, with his father aging and the throne soon to pass to him, the court pressed him to choose a bride. A royal ball was announced, a gathering of nobles, daughters of dukes, princesses from faraway isles, all hoping to capture the prince's heart. But Elion wanted none of it. "I do not need a queen with titles or treasure," he said. "I long for someone who understands the song I've lost. Someone who sees the world not for its gold, but its light." The king sighed. "Then find her. But first, you must look." With heavy steps, Prince Elion agreed to attend the ball, one night only. He would dance once. If no spark stirred in him by midnight, he would leave and return to his solitude. That very evening, under the stars, he looked to the northern trees, and saw something fall. A light, a flame in the sky. A wish. For the first time in weeks, he whispered a hope. Let her be real. Serenya awoke early the next morning, the memory of the falling star still fresh in her heart. She shook out the ashes in the hearth and began sweeping the hallway, as always, before the sun had fully stretched its golden limbs across the sky. But something was different. As she passed the front door, a gust of wind blew through the narrow cracks, scattering leaves and dust across the marble floor. With a sigh, she knelt down to sweep it clean. That's when she saw it. A scroll of parchment, tucked beneath the carved corner of the door. It was sealed with the royal crest, the silver sigil of Elindor, where stars touched the earth. Serenya's breath caught. She turned it over in trembling fingers and cracked the seal, unfolding the scroll with care. The words shimmered, as if inked in starlight. Greater than, by royal decree, you are invited to the grand ball at Moonhowl Palace. One night only, to dance beneath the celestial veil. All daughters of Elindor are welcome. The prince shall choose his heart's companion before the final chime of midnight. Her heart lifted, and then dropped. She heard footsteps on the stairs. Quickly, she hid the scroll under her apron and stood as Lady Varus descended with the grace of a spider. "Well," her stepmother barked. "Why are you frozen like a statue?" "There was an invitation, Lady Varus. For the royal ball." Lady Varus snatched it from Serenya's hands. Her eyes gleamed as she read. "Indeed," she said with a smirk. And of course, it's meant for Lilian and Varel. Two lovely girls of noble birth. She glanced sharply at Serenya. Not for chimney girls with soot-stained fingers. But the invitation said. It said, all daughters of Elindor, yes. But surely that does not include you, dear. Not you. Serenya said nothing, but in her heart, something small and bright flared again, like the flame of a star refusing to go out. She helped dress her stepsisters in ribbons and pearls. She smiled as they pranced before mirrors, boasting who would win the prince's gaze. And when the carriage rolled away with them, she stood barefoot in the doorway, watching dust settle where dreams had just been. She turned toward the empty house. And then, something shimmered behind her. The shimmer behind Serenya grew brighter, until the entire room glowed with a quiet warmth. She turned, shielding her eyes, and saw her. A woman stood in the threshold of the open garden gate, clothed in a cloak woven from strands of silver moonlight. Her hair rippled like water touched by stars, and her eyes held galaxies that knew every sorrow and every hope. Serenya gasped. Who are you? The woman smiled gently. Some call me the Starlight Weaver. I come only when the stars send me, to those whose dreams refuse to die. Serenya blinked, her hands trembling. But I have nothing. I wear soot and rags. They told me I don't belong at the ball. The Starlight Weaver stepped forward and touched her chin with a finger that glowed like a comet's trail. You have the most important thing of all, she said. You believe in the beauty that still waits inside the world, and inside yourself. That is rare. From the folds of her cloak, the weaver pulled out a spindle made of crystal and light. She spun it once in the air, and golden threads shimmered out, weaving themselves into shape, a gown unlike any Serenya had ever dreamed. It shimmered like dawn and midnight all at once, with flecks of fire and frost, starlight and shadow. A gown made of dreams remembered. Then, the weaver clapped her hands. A pumpkin in the garden trembled, split, and reshaped into a glowing carriage. Mice scattered and returned as dappled horses with silver reins. And in Serenya's hands, a pair of glass-like slippers formed, cool and light as air, yet unbreakable. I can't believe it, Serenya whispered, tears shining in her eyes. You must, said the weaver. But listen carefully, the spell lasts until the final chime of midnight. Then all will fade, except one thing. What will remain? The weaver touched Serenya's chest. The fire in your voice. Speak with truth. Dance with courage. The rest will follow. With a rush of wind, Serenya stepped into the carriage, her heart thundering. As she vanished into the night, the Starlight Weaver stood alone, starlight drifting from her fingertips. And may he recognize your song, she whispered. Moonhall Palace gleamed like a castle from a dream, every turret lit with soft lanterns and spires kissed by starlight. The gates had opened wide, and nobles from every corner of Elindor had arrived, cloaked in silks, rubies, sapphires, and pride. But when Serenya's carriage rolled into the courtyard, silence bloomed. She stepped out in her shimmering gown, the glass slippers whispering on stone. Heads turned, words fell still. Her gown caught the starlight like no fabric ever had, as though the night sky had come to the ball in human form. No one knew who she was. Not Lady Varys. Not Lilian or Varel, who stood slack-jawed near a fountain. Not even the prince. Prince Corwin stood beside the royal orchestra, his crown forgotten on a marble pillar. He looked pale, aloof, a young man who had danced with 100 girls and felt nothing. Until now. Their eyes met. Serenya curtsied, unsure whether to stay or run. But the fire the weaver spoke of warmed her heart. Corwin stepped forward, offering his hand. Would you like to dance? She nodded. I thought you didn't dance. He laughed, a real sound at last. I only needed the right reason. Their fingers met, and the music rose. They danced beneath the night sky, where every star watched in silent awe. Serenya felt weightless, not because of the magic, but because for the first time, someone was seeing her. Not the soot, not the silence, but the song, one no one else had heard, not even herself, until this night. The palace bloomed with music and laughter, and Serenya danced with Prince Corwin as though the world had no weight. She twirled, laughed, and for a while forgot everything, the cinders, the silence, the pain. But midnight waited. As the final waltz began, a low chime rang out across the marble halls, the first bell. Serenya froze. Her heart clenched as the Starlight Weaver's warning returned to her. The spell ends with the 12th chime. She turned toward the garden. I have to go. Corwin frowned. But, wait. I don't even know your name. She hesitated, caught between truth and fear. The gown shimmered, her glass slipper glinting as she stepped back. I'm sorry. The second chime echoed. She ran. Through the hallway. Down the stairs. Past the crowd, who gasped at the fleeing girl in starlight. Corwin chased her, dodging dancers and startled nobles. Please, tell me who you are. But the third, fourth, fifth bells rang like a countdown. Serenya's gown flickered. The horses beyond the gate began to tremble back into mice. She stumbled on the grand staircase. One glass slipper slipped from her foot and clattered down the steps, perfectly intact. But Serenya kept running, her bare foot kissing the cold stone as the final chime struck. With the 12th bell, the magic unraveled like threads pulled from a loom. The gown vanished. The carriage turned back to vines and pumpkin. The mice scattered. And Serenya, now cloaked in soot and sorrow, hid in the shadows beyond the gates, heart pounding. Back inside the palace, Prince Corwin picked up the delicate slipper, eyes wide with wonder and grief. He whispered, I'll find you. No matter what you wear or where you live. I will find you. The fire had long since faded from the hearth when Serenya crept back into the ash-stained cottage. The mice scurried to their hidden corners, the pumpkin lay half-rotted in the garden, and the stars overhead blinked quietly as though nothing had happened. She peeled the soot-streaked cloak from her shoulders and sat on the cold stone floor, barefoot and trembling. The magic was gone. The memory, however, lingered like perfume. A dance. A touch. A prince who had seen her, not for her beauty or magic, but for the melody in her soul. And she had left him with nothing but a slipper and a mystery. From the attic window, she could see torchlight spreading across the kingdom like fireflies. Riders galloped to every village with a royal decree. The prince seeks the girl whose foot fits the glass slipper. Lilian and Veril squealed the next morning, rushing to ready themselves for the trial. Lady Varys, quiet and cold-eyed, watched Serenya closely. You're hiding something. Serenya turned her face away. The soot she wore was not just on her skin, it cloaked her life, her silence, her fear. But inside her chest, something had begun to burn. A song, a flame, a defiance. As the wind whispered through the cracked shutters, it carried with it the faintest scent of stardust, and Serenya remembered the weaver's words. The fire in you is not borrowed. It's your own. Trumpets rang through the village square, waking even the cobwebs from the rafters. The royal guards arrived with silks, scrolls, and the most fragile treasure of all, a single glass slipper nestled on a velvet pillow. Prince Corwin, tired but determined, rode behind them, scanning each window, each face, each soul. Lady Varys's manor was the final stop of the morning. Inside, Lilian and Veril twirled in ribbons and powdered faces, rehearsing curtsies. Lady Varys greeted the prince with false sweetness, her eyes never leaving the slipper. We are honored, your highness. My daughters have awaited your visit. Lilian went first. She forced her foot into the slipper, gritting her teeth, trying not to scream. It didn't fit. Then Veril, grinning wide, slid her toes in, but her heel refused to follow. She stamped and twisted, but the glass would not bend. Prince Corwin looked unimpressed. Is there no one else in this house? He asked. Lady Varys hesitated. Only a servant girl. She's filthy and mute. Certainly not who you seek. But before Corwin could reply, a small mouse darted out from under the table and tugged at the edge of Serenya's skirt in the shadows. The room fell silent. From the kitchen doorway, Serenya stepped forward, wearing ashes-like armor and silence like a crown. Her eyes met Corwin's. Recognition flared. Without a word, she knelt before the slipper. Gasps echoed. Lady Varys surged forward, but the captain of the guard blocked her. Serenya gently placed her foot into the glass slipper. It fit perfectly. As the prince knelt before her, pulling the matching slipper from his coat and offering it with trembling hands, Lady Varys hissed, "No. She's no noble. She's nothing." Prince Corwin stood. She is everything. And in that moment, the wind outside changed direction, as though the world had just taken a deep breath. The castle gates opened wide for Serenya. But the moment she stepped inside, her heart clutched with old fear, the kind that chokes before it speaks, the kind that hides in corners when voices rise. She had not spoken since her parents were taken. Since the fire and the night of screams. Since the cruel echo of Lady Varus's warning, "Speak again, and you'll follow them." So she never did. But now, walking beside Prince Corwin, with servants bowing and stars carved into every marble arch above her, the silence she wore began to crack. The court, curious and cruel in their own glittering ways, whispered behind fans and veils. "A cinder girl, a mute, this is the prince's choice." Still, Corwin never let go of her hand. That evening, in the palace's music hall, he led her to a golden harp. "My mother always said, music is truth where words fail. Will you play?" She hesitated. Her fingers trembled. Then, slowly, she touched the strings. A soft melody drifted out, unsure at first, like a bird remembering flight. But as she played, something inside her stirred. A memory, a promise, a voice long buried. Tears fell down her cheeks as she played the lullaby her mother once sang. And then, without warning, Serenya sang. Softly, brokenly, but her voice, raw, real, and radiant, filled the hall. Gasps rippled through the nobles, and the prince stood stunned. It was the voice he had heard in his dreams, the song from the ball, the fire in the starlit night. She sang of loss, of longing, of light. When the last note trembled into silence, the entire hall remained frozen. Then, thunderous applause. Serenya stood, taller than ever before, not just heard, but seen. Her silence had protected her once. But now, her voice would free her. Dawn broke over the kingdom with a sky ablaze in lavender and gold. Word had spread like wildfire. The Cinder Girl had a voice, and it could move mountains. But not everyone rejoiced. Lady Varus, stripped of her title, seethed in exile, her influence shattered like her illusions of control. Yet Serenya's heart held no hatred. She had spent too long in silence to waste breath on vengeance. Now, the kingdom prepared for a coronation unlike any other, not of a queen by bloodline, but by soul. In the grand hall of stars, banners of midnight blue fluttered. Every noble, villager, musician, and orphan filled the space, drawn not by law, but by love. The prince stood at the altar, not with a crown in hand, but a harp. Serenya entered not in jewels, but in a gown of soft gray and shimmering gold thread, stitched with falling stars and rising flames. When she reached the altar, Corwin bowed. "Before all, I ask not for a queen, but a partner in truth. Serenya, will you sing not only for me, but for the hearts of this kingdom?" She smiled, and her voice answered, not with a word, but with a song. A song unlike any heard before. It soared like phoenix flame through marble halls, igniting hearts with courage. It told the tale of ashes and embers, of sorrow and strength, of how one girl with soot on her cheek and starlight in her heart had changed the fate of a kingdom. The skies wept light, the people rose in standing ovation. And in that moment, the firebird's spirit, the ancient symbol of hope, was seen dancing above the castle, its wings alight in flame and freedom. Serenya had become more than legend. She was voice, she was flame, she was freedom. Dizzy moral lesson. No matter how small or silent the world makes you feel, your voice, once found, can change everything. True strength often grows in quiet places, and even cinders can become stars. For more motivation stories, please like, share and subscribe this channel. Thanks and God bless.